Hollowbrook Manor. Just the name sent shivers down your spine. It stood on a hill overlooking the town. The mansion was old, dark and abandoned. No one dared to go near it. Stories whispered about the mansion. They told of a family that vanished, of strange lights and eerie sounds. Some said it was haunted. Everyone agreed it was a place of fear. The old iron gates were always closed. Weathered and rusted, they seemed to guard the secrets of the mansion. The windows were like empty eyes, watching, waiting. Hollowbrook Manor was a place of mystery and danger. No one dared to uncover its secrets until now. Tom, Clara and David were best friends. They had known each other since kindergarten and had shared countless adventures together. From building tree houses to sneaking into the local cinema, they were inseparable. They loved a good scare, especially Tom. He was always the one to suggest watching horror movies or visiting haunted houses during Halloween. His enthusiasm for the eerie was infectious. He loved to explore the unknown, the thrill of the mysterious, and the adrenaline rush of the unexpected were what he lived for. Tom's curiosity often led them to places they would never have dared to go alone. One day, he dared Clara and David to go to Hollowbrook Manor with him. The manor was infamous in their town, shrouded in legends and ghost stories that had been passed down for generations.
I'm not sure, Tom. I've heard the stories. People say it's haunted by the spirits of those who lived there centuries ago. Some even claim to have seen ghostly apparitions in the windows at night. Just thinking about that place gives me the chills. The thought of stepping inside that dark, decaying mansion made Clara's heart race. She had always been the cautious one, the voice of reason in their trio.
But she didn't want to seem scared, especially not to Tom. David was nervous too. He had heard the same stories and felt the same fear, but he didn't want to let his friends down, but he was also curious. The idea of uncovering the secrets of Hollowbrook Manor intrigued him. What if they could prove the stories wrong? Or what if they discovered something truly extraordinary? What if the stories were true? The thought sent shivers down his spine, but it also excited him. The possibility of encountering the supernatural was both terrifying and thrilling. What secrets did the mansion hold? The old abandoned rooms, covered in dust and cobwebs, seemed to whisper tales of the past. Each creak of the floorboards and each gust of wind through the broken windows added to the eerie atmosphere. He couldn't resist the challenge. The more he thought about it, the more determined he became. This was an adventure they would remember for the rest of their lives.
Okay, let's do it. David's voice was steady, but his heart was pounding. He looked at Clara and Tom, seeing the same mix of fear and excitement in their eyes.
Clara sighed. She knew she couldn't back out now. Her friends were counting on her, and she didn't want to be the one to spoil the adventure. She knew she couldn't back out now. Summoning all her courage, she nodded in agreement. They were in this together, no matter what. They were going to Hollowbrook Manor. The decision was made, and there was no turning back. The three friends stood in front of the imposing structure, feeling a mix of dread and anticipation, and she had a feeling they wouldn't like what they found there. The air around the manor seemed to hum with an unseen energy, and Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. This was just the beginning of their most unforgettable adventure yet. The sun was setting as they approached the mansion. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, but the colors seemed to fade as they got closer. The air grew cold, a cold that seeped into their bones. The wind whispered through the trees. It sounded like someone was crying. They reached the iron gates. They were cold to the touch. The metal creaked as Tom pushed them open. It was the sound of warning, but they ignored it. They were already too scared to turn back. The front door was unlocked. It stood there, slightly ajar, as if inviting them into its shadowy depths. The air outside was still, almost as if the mansion itself was holding its breath, waiting for their next move. It swung open with a low groan, the sound reverberating through the stillness of the night. The hinges, rusted with age, protested loudly, as if warning them of the secrets that lay within. The sound echoed through the empty hall, bouncing off the walls and fading into the distance. The vast emptiness seemed to swallow the noise. amplifying the sense of isolation and abandonment. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through the grimy windows. Each particle seemed to tell a story of neglect and time, suspended in the air like tiny ghosts of the past. The air inside was stale and heavy. It smelled like decay, a mix of mold and rot that clung to their nostrils. The walls, once grand and opulent, were now peeling and crumbling, a testament to the passage of time. The silence was broken only by the sound of their own breathing. Each inhale and exhale seemed magnified in the oppressive quiet, a reminder of their own vulnerability in this forgotten place. Each breath echoed in the stillness. They stepped inside, their footsteps hesitant and cautious. The floorboards beneath them groaned in protest, as if the house itself was aware of their presence. The floorboards creaked under their weight, each step a reminder of the fragility of the structure. It felt as though the very ground beneath them could give way at any moment. Each step was like walking on a tightrope, a delicate balance between curiosity and fear. The darkness seemed to press in on them, making every movement feel deliberate and significant. They were surrounded by darkness and the feeling that they were not alone. The shadows seemed to shift and move, playing tricks on their eyes and heightening their sense of unease. A cold draft sent shivers down their spines. It was as if the very air was alive, whispering secrets and warnings that only their subconscious could hear. They turned to see where it came from, their eyes straining to pierce the darkness. Every creak and groan of the old house seemed to hold a hidden meaning, a clue to the mysteries that lay within. But there was nothing there. Just the empty hall stretching out before them like a yawning chasm. The feeling of being watched persisted, an invisible presence that seemed to follow their every move. Just the empty hall and the feeling of unseen eyes. The mansion, with its decaying grandeur and haunting silence, seemed to be alive with memories and whispers, a place where the past and present intertwined in a dance of shadows and light. They wandered through the mansion, their footsteps echoing through the vast empty halls. The air was thick with the scent of age and decay, and every creak of the floorboards seemed to whisper secrets of the past. Each room was filled with shadows, dancing and flickering as if they had a life of their own. The dim light barely penetrated the darkness, casting eerie shapes on the walls. The furniture was covered in dust sheets like ghosts themselves, frozen in time. It was as if the house had been abandoned in a hurry, leaving everything behind to gather dust and memories. They could hear whispers coming from the walls, soft and indistinct, like the murmurs of long-forgotten conversations. The sound sent chills down their spines, making them feel as if they were being watched. But when they turned to look, there was nothing there, just the empty, silent walls holding onto their secrets.
They entered the library, a grand room filled with towering shelves. The air was still, almost oppressive, as if the room itself was holding its breath. The shelves were lined with books, thousands of them, each one a potential doorway to another world, another time. The sheer number of volumes was overwhelming. The air was thick with the smell of old paper and leather, a scent that spoke of history and knowledge. It was a smell that could transport you to another era, another life.
Clara felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She spun around, her heart pounding in her chest. No one was there. The room was empty, but the sensation lingered, making her skin crawl. But she could have sworn she saw a figure disappear through the wall, a faint silhouette that vanished as quickly as it appeared. It was as if the library itself was alive, playing tricks on her mind.
Suddenly, a book flew off a shelf, as if propelled by an unseen force. The sudden movement startled them, breaking the heavy silence of the room. It landed at their feet with a loud thud, the sound echoing through the library. The noise was jarring, a stark contrast to the quiet that had enveloped them. They stared at it in horror, their eyes wide with fear and disbelief. It was as if the book had a life of its own, demanding their attention. The pages were flipping by themselves, as if an invisible hand was turning them. The sight was both mesmerizing and terrifying, a clear sign that they were not alone. As if someone was reading it, the pages continued to turn, revealing words and images that seemed to come to life. It was a haunting reminder of the presence that lingered in the library, a ghostly librarian still tending to her books.
They ran from the library, their hearts pounded in their chests. They could hear footsteps behind them, heavy footsteps, but when they looked back, there was no one there. They burst into the parlour. A fire was burning in the hearth, but it gave no warmth, only a flickering, eerie light. They could hear music coming from the old gramophone in the corner, but it wasn't playing. Suddenly the furniture started to shake. The chandelier swayed violently overhead. They could hear laughter echoing around them. Cold, cruel laughter. They had to get out, now. Section 7. Escape from Hollowbrook. They raced towards the front door, but it was locked. They rattled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. They were trapped inside. They could hear the footsteps getting closer and closer. The laughter was louder now, echoing through the halls. It seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. They were completely surrounded. David threw his weight against the door with all his might. It burst open with a loud, splintering crack. They stumbled out into the night, gasping for breath. Section 8. The secrets remain. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of the town. They gasped for breath, their lungs burning. They looked back at the mansion. It stood on the hill, dark and silent, but they knew the truth. Hollowbrook Manor was not empty. It was filled with something dark and terrifying, something that they had unleashed. They never spoke of what they saw that night, but they could never forget it. The memory of Hollowbrook Manor would haunt them forever. Section 9. A haunting melody. The next day, Tom found something strange. An old music box was on his bedside table. He didn't recognize it. It wasn't his. He picked it up cautiously. It felt ice cold in his hands. He opened the lid. A haunting melody began to play. It was the same melody he had heard in the parlour. He quickly shut the music box. The melody stopped, but he could still hear it echoing in his head. He knew then that Hollowbrook Manor wasn't finished with them. It was a warning, a reminder of the terror they had experienced. He shuddered. What else had they brought back with them? Section 10. Beware the Hollows. The experience changed them. Tom wasn't so eager to explore the unknown anymore. Clara couldn't shake the feeling of unseen eyes watching her, and David couldn't sleep without seeing the ghostly faces in his dreams. They learned a valuable lesson that night. Some mysteries are best left unsolved, some places are best left undisturbed, and some doors are best left closed. Beware the hollows, beware the whispers in the dark, beware the haunting of Hollowbrook Manor.